We just got Apollo as the last hero. He managed to win against literally no one. Congratulations, Apollo. And so, with that concludes the 6 hero Old Gods New Blood update for Deadlock. So, today in the Bear Pit episode, we're going to discuss what's next for the game. First of all, we're going to talk about Apollo, then we're going to move into other topics, discuss how the update has affected the community, the game itself, the player base, but also what's coming next. What could be coming next, right? Like, what are the steps required maybe to go to open beta or things like that? So, thanks for joining us in the Bear Pit. rkryptic, how about you explain what the Bear Pit is to anybody that hasn't seen it, maybe?
Yeah, so we've been seeing a lot of people come to the game. We'll just tell you all right now, Bear Pit, we are a weekly podcast dedicated to pretty much everything Deadlock related. When it comes to, just talking about the general vibes of the game, the meta, the new heroes, any type of updates, stuff like that. We try to cover it all. We have some fun sections that we actually haven't been able to do recently because we've had so much new content coming out. But we will be returning to things like the Curiosity Corner, which is where we take community submitted ideas for items that people want us to look at, or heroes they want us to look at and have discussions about. So we try to do our best to kind of incorporate what it is that's kind of the hot topic for Deadlock, I guess, at the time. So
Yeah.
it's fun. We have a good time with it. Hopefully,
Yeah.
if you guys are joining us for the first time, welcome. The Bear Pit, there is a reason behind the name. We promise. It is canon to the Deadlock universe, and it's not just
Yeah.
random.
I mean, I feel like we should keep it, like, kind of like, if you're new to Deadlock and you don't know what the Bear Pit is, or even if you're not new and you don't know what the Bear Pit is canonically in the Deadlock universe, just look it up, go to the Deadlock wiki, get some info. We're not going to tell you because it's more fun if you figure it out. So
Yeah,
I will say it has to do with Lash.
yeah, of course. Not
And so,
surprising
you
for you.
guys can. Exactly. Not surprising. Anyhow, we're gonna get right into our first topic, which is Apollo. So Apollo was the last hero to be released, kind of to no one's surprise. Right from the get-go, I think everybody kind of knew Apollo would be last for some reason. And at some point, it just became like a meme. Like, a
Yeah,
lot of people in my chat would be like, "Why the Apollo hate?" And I was like, I don't actually have any hate for Apollo, but it's just funny that he's gonna come in last at this point. And even on Apollo's release date, I was like, will Apollo win today? Like, it was, it's just funny. But anyway, he is last, but not least.
yeah,
In fact, I believe that, funnily enough, his ult, I think, was confirmed by Yoshi. So his ultimate says Itani Lo-san or something, which means I have no equal or something like that. I believe, according to Yoshi. So, definitely not the least of the heroes. And he's got an exceptionally cool kit to play, an exceptionally annoying kit to play against. So, he's that type of hero, right? Where you play as him, you feel like you're the main character. And when you play against him, you're just kind of like, pissed off because he's like just teleporting everywhere and just being like really, really annoying to hit. So, how have you felt about him so far?
I think he's the hero that I had probably the most difficult read on when he first came out. I think, like a lot of the other heroes, it was pretty straightforward as in terms of kind of what to expect. But this hero being a fencer, I was like, how are they going to incorporate the like idea of him being a fencer, into the game? And I think they did a really good job, which we'll go over the abilities in a moment. But I think
Yeah.
overall, I do agree he is pretty dang annoying to play against, and this is a hero that you can't play against well without at least demoing the hero, right? Like, I think there's certain heroes that you do need to kind of understand how they work in order to play against them, and Apollo is kind of one of those heroes where it's like you definitely need to understand his abilities to effectively play against him,
Yeah.
because if you don't, he's all about
Yeah.
counters. So this is
Yep.
if you're struggling against the hero right now, maybe just spend like 10 minutes in the the demo and play around with this hero's abilities, because it will help out tremendously. So I guess we can talk about the abilities though. So
Yeah.
we'll just go in order, as we have in some of the other ones,
Mhm.
because I think
Mhm.
it's the easiest. So his
Yep.
first ability is probably, I would say, like, was the one that didn't really like stand out to me as like necessarily a fencer style ability, but it is kind of cool in the way that it synergizes with his kit, which is one of the things that we've kind of harped on a lot with the latest hero releases. Like, all of them have combos or different types of synergies.
Yeah.
So his first ability, disengaging sigil, basically he just does like a small explosion in front of him that deals spirit damage and slows the enemies, while also kind of leaping him into the air behind him, allowing him to have like a pretty cool setup for his third ability, which we'll get to in a little bit. But this is a really strong kind of like nuke and just like trading ability in close range, which is pretty strong.
Yeah, it's definitely very, very strong. And I mean, the first ability is, it's a nice movement ability because you can double jump and you can cast it like underneath you, get some height. You can jump and cast it behind you or in front of you. And one thing to note about the first ability that people might not know is that even when you cast it, so you press one, you can still turn it completely, right? So even if you cast it like quote unquote in front of you, if you just flip your mouse 180, it'll still cast it behind you. So it's pretty forgiving. Most of his abilities are actually like, I mean, they're not super easy, but they are forgiving and they're targeting. So yeah, and then the AP upgrades for that one are kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So there's something that we haven't seen before in an AP upgrade. So the first one is just plus 30 damage, which whatever, we've seen that many, many times. But then the second one gives him fire rate and 50% bullet speed. Okay, so he gets bullet velocity for 10 seconds. So that's a way to kind of enable a more gun-oriented build right there, right? So pretty interesting. And then the last AP upgrade restores 2 stamina on player hit, and it also resets your air jump, air dash limit. So you can basically just kind of fly with this one.
Yeah, this one it seemed very cool that you get like the extra 2 stamina. Like it's a very rare resource, right? Getting stamina restoration like that. But for 5 AP, it's a hard investment, but I think it's one of those things that certain games, certain players are going to really like that play style. So I think that's kind of neat. Do you want to go over the second ability though?
Yeah, 100%. Second ability is a riposte, or riposte. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly, but that's all right. Yeah, riposte. Which is basically its counterspell. Okay, so if you're familiar with counterspell, that's exactly what this ability is. The only difference is that it works on like literally everything, including gunshots, including neutrals, including troopers. Okay, basically, if you get hit by something, you will deflect it and it will send you in the direction that you are looking at, right? So if you're looking in front of you, it'll send you there. If you're looking behind you, it'll send you there. So it's another movement ability. It's kind of like a dash. It sends you like fairly far. I would say it sends
15
you
meters
farther than like Shiv Dash. Yeah, probably farther than Shiv Dash. And it also, if you collide with an enemy hero, you also stun them, right? So the base stun is 0.6 seconds, and you also reduce their bullet resist. And now if you invest more in it, you can get the bullet resist reduction to minus 30 and the stun to 1.8 seconds, which is quite long. So it has a lot of potential, and I do think that Gun Apollo is a little bit like underexplored at the moment because you have a stun that can be very long if you invest into it with a minus 30% bullet resist, which is very high.
Insanely
and on
high.
top of that, your disengaging sigil, your first thing, will give you fire rate, and it'll give you bullet velocity. So I think that there's definitely some potential for Gun Apollo that we haven't seen yet, especially combined with the fact that he's just hard to kill. And anytime you have a hero that's hard to kill, they can make for a decent gun character. For example, Calico had a very good gun, but her gun wasn't like anything. It wasn't like that crazy. But combined with the fact that she had Leaving Slash and her ultimate and just a lot of tools that made her hard to kill, made her into a strong gun character. So I think there might be some potential in Gun Apollo.
Yeah, and that's where when we get into the next 2 abilities, you're going to see why we say he hasn't been explored too much as a gun hero, and it's because his next 2 abilities lean him to being very much a spirit hero. But I do agree with you. I think there is definitely some flexibility in the kit to maybe go for more of a gun oriented build. Maybe it's just going to be some number tweaks, which we'll talk about. Maybe there's some balancing that could be done that would make him more capable of that. But when we look at his third ability and then his ultimate, of course, this is where like you look at him and you're like, okay, spirit seems pretty strong. His third ability, called Flawless Advance, this is a unique spell, and the fact that it has it's built around kind of like a timing window similar to, I don't know, like a rhythm game in a way, where you like cast the ability and then you have to hit the ability at a specific time to get bonus damage. And and then allows you to use it 3 times within a cast window. So I believe you have like 8 seconds to recast everything, up to 3 times. So you can still move around and stuff between the cast, but when you cast it, you're essentially locked into your current position, and then you can kind of aim wherever you want, and then you dash forward in a like thrusting strike, and that does spirit damage, and it's a pretty substantial amount of spirit damage.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the perfect damage is a 1.6 scaling. It's a lot, and you know it just does so much damage for sure. And also like it just makes your movement very erratic because
Yeah.
like when you are right that when you cast it, you know, it kind of like locks you into your position, but you do dash. So for example, if you cast it while holding A, you'll dash to the left. If you cast it while holding D, you'll dash to the right. If you cast it while holding W, you'll dash forward, right? So there's always kind of like it's always accompanied with a dash unless you cast it without literally holding any movement keys.
Yeah.
In which case you will cast it while standing still, but you'll still dash forward at the end, kind of like a thrust, like you said.
It's
So
cool.
definitely a spirit ability.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, they buffed this ability. Apollo is one of the few characters that he received some buffs early, I think probably due to his win rate most likely being abysmal.
Yeah.
That's probably what made Valve buff him, because I don't really think that any like high level players were asking for buffs or anything like that, because the hero conceptually is very strong.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming Valve saw like, okay, like people are not winning on this hero turret, let's give it a slight buff. They didn't do anything crazy, but they gave him the Yamato treatment where while he's channeling his 3, so while he's like charging up the slash, he gets 60% bullet resist. And they also buffed his gun a little bit when they did that a few days ago. So
Yeah.
I fully expect this hero to get nerfed in the future, but you know, for now they buffed him.
I kind of agree. I was gonna say I feel like there are some things about this hero that seem kind of strong, but flawless advance, very cool ability, very neat. Very I would say like on theme as well, which when it comes to like the themes of these heroes, like that's one of the things that we have really seen like with this new cast of 6, like they are very much built around a centralized idea, and this does fit the idea of the fencer really well, which is kind of cool. This last ability, you mentioned the name of it earlier, right? Atani Losan. This is someone at Valve was watching a lot of Demon Slayer, I think, like watched the new movie and was like, we're putting that in the game, guys. We're just gonna, I'm not gonna, I mean, it's been long enough. This is Zenitsu's like this is just his ability. It's so freaking epic though. Like it is, like we mentioned aura farming with Venator. This is the aura farming ability, dude. This is a crazy, crazy flex. What do you get to use?
It even
this?
has the anime slow-mo built in, basically,
that's
right?
what I'm
Like
saying.
the entire dash, like it slows everything down, and also like you kind of like see your character in like really far view for a while. So it's definitely probably like visually, it's probably the coolest ability that's ever been added to Deadlock.
Yeah.
From a visual perspective, and now it does feel really cool to use as well.
It does.
When you execute someone, like I was playing against a Vindicta yesterday on Apollo, and I'm just like, I just cut her half health, and obviously I was kind of fed compared to her, so literally just one shot her from half HP. So that's and she was like, where did my health go? And yeah, I mean it's crazy. It used to say that it cursed.
Yeah.
And now it doesn't say that anymore because it wasn't really a curse, and so they adjusted the wording to say that they can't take action or heal. Even that's kind of false. Because you can it's kind of like Paradox Carbine more, where it's like, so you can still parry, for example.
Yeah,
but
you can't use
most
abilities
actions.
though. Yeah, you can't use abilities.
Yeah, you can't take most actions. Yeah, exactly. So it's slightly incorrect wording, but it does have like kind of an execute feature where if the enemy is below 50% HP, then you can deal 60% bonus damage. And if you have it maxed, it's 100% bonus damage. So it's double damage below half HP if you have it maxed. If you don't have it maxed, it's just 60% more damage, which is still a lot, especially early, right? You get someone half HP. Like even without any spirit items, like this ability still does like 250 base damage. And then if you buy just like
Mystic
normal
Burst.
spirit items, like let's say I buy Improved Spirit, Expansion, Burst, and Cold Front, which are pretty standard items for this hero, then all of a sudden this ability hits for 360 damage. And then when you combine that with like 60, it could deal 60% more. You're basically killing anyone that's below, 500 HP just instantly. And this is like, 5 minutes in the game.
Yeah, this
But The cooldown's kind of long, I
Yeah, I
guess.
was gonna say this is offset by the fact that it's a pretty long cooldown early on, which does make sense, right? Like it otherwise this would be quite strong. That being said, the investment into this ability, like you said, at max level you get the extra 40% to make it the 100% bonus damage, but at level 2, uh, you get the 40-second reduced cooldown. So it does allow you to kind of bring this
Yeah.
into something that's a little bit more often used, I suppose.
Yeah.
Overall, it's just a sick ability. It's, like you said, one of the coolest visually added to the game. So I'm a big fan of that. Overall, though, I gotta ask you on the theme, how do you feel like they did in terms of like capturing the kind of whole, because like the lore on this hero is that he is like the prince of Ixia, right? Like he is the son
Yeah.
of the king of Ixia, and he, like, the whole family's in a war, so they're like, yeah, go to this like university in New York, you'll be safe there. And now he's fighting for the patrons. So like
Yeah.
he's like, the hero's lore is pretty sick. How do you feel they did in terms of like kind of capturing that whole idea?
Right. I think that the execution of the hero is very well done. I've heard a lot of comments on. I mean, I'm gonna get a little, I guess, off topic, but it's still related. I've heard some comments on his animations being janky. I do agree a little bit, but I think most of his animations are kind of sick. I just think that his abilities are like, they make you move very like erratically, and so it can look a little weird. But his animations are definitely like not on par with Celeste, who I would say that Celeste probably has like the best animations in the game. I don't think
She's the
anybody
gold
would
standard.
disagree. Yeah, exactly. Like if you look at like, okay, what can Valve do for animations for a hero? I would say Celeste is like, okay, what they're capable of, right? So okay, so Celeste is probably the standard that we should judge characters by. Like if a character has animations as good as Celeste, then I would say, okay, that's amazing. Now Apollo still has better animations than I would say a good amount of the cast, especially the old cast. But compared to Celeste, it does feel kind of underwhelming. So there's that. As far as the actual concept, the voice lines, everything, I think they did a great job. Like you said, the hero's lore is pretty sick. The visual design, I've heard some mixed feelings about the visual design. I quite like it. But obviously, I'm not very picky when it comes to that. I'm not really an art guy. So I'm just like, yeah, the character looks cool. The abilities look cool. I really like his sword. I think his sword looks really nice. And yeah.
No, I kind of agree. I think a lot of times when it comes to uh like there's a lot of things that you can nitpick when it comes to heroes, right? Especially when
Yeah.
we're still in like a closed beta technically, right? Like the game's not fully finished. But I think overall this hero like definitely kind of holds up in terms of the quality that we've been seeing from a lot of the new cast, like the last like 12 heroes or so. But um, yeah, I do agree. His movement can be a little bit weird sometimes. Like some of his like jumps or whatnot don't feel like as smooth as maybe some other heroes. So maybe like some of the
Sure, yeah.
some of those can be like slightly tweaked. But overall, I like him. He's a cool hero. Definitely glad to have him in the game. Um,
Yeah, 100%.
in terms of the voting for heroes, right? This is all done. So Apollo, like you said,
Yep.
he's last. But the cool thing is Valve actually released some of the numbers from the voting, which was super sick. Because I was curious, like,
Yeah.
there's how many people were actually participating. Turns out it was a lot. Almost 61 million votes. 60,776,000 votes were cast during the event, which is kind of crazy. I know that the player count was on the rise, but that is substantially more than I was expecting. And the largest gap between any hero was Venator and Celeste, which that one was surprising to me. I did not expect that one
Yeah.
to be the largest gap. I thought it was definitely Rem right out the gate, but I guess Rem was a lot closer to Graves and Silver than we maybe expected.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that surprised. I do know that the Venator had kind of like the employed crowd on his side, so to speak. Like,
That's so true.
it's just they didn't have like the voting power of the the unemployed world grinders that had like 400 games, but they still had a lot of popular backing. Like a lot of people wanted Venator, and I think a lot of people are happy with Venator. They got exactly what they wanted, I think. But yeah, it was interesting, and also like the 61 million votes is kind of crazy because that means that there was like 6 million Deadlock games played. Because if you think about it, it's like, okay, let's say that the average number of people in a Deadlock game is 10.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's 8 people in a street brawl, 12 people in a regular game. Obviously, it's not perfect math, but like that would equivalent that would be about 6 million Deadlock games in 3 weeks. So, and I've seen it myself. So I coach a decent amount of people, and I see the match IDs climb, and like the match ID numbers have gone up like a lot faster than in the past. Obviously, you can see the repercussions of the player base. So very cool to see. Very cool to see the numbers. There was one mad lad that had over 800 votes on Celeste. All of his votes were on Celeste, and he had 800 of them. So shout out to that guy. That's kind of crazy.
Can you imagine them?
Like,
can
Deadlock is my job.
Yeah.
And I had like 400 votes.
I was gonna say, how the hell do you get 800 votes, man?
I mean,
Also,
street brawl only, surely. Like, there's no way he played the regular game mode. Like, only street brawl.
Yeah. Also, the salt of not putting any votes on the final week into Apollo after Celeste got released is hilarious. Them being like, "Yeah, I've done my job. I'm not voting for Apollo." Yeah, absolutely bonkers. I don't know if that person listens to the podcast. Congratulations. I don't know what else to say.
Congratulations, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would congratulate them, but you're definitely, I mean, you're definitely like you're a Deadlock player.
Mm-hmm.
And let us know if you need help. I mean, like blink twice if you're being held hostage by Celeste or something. Like maybe we can send some help over, but next time we have if we get another 6 hero update, which we'll talk about, later in the episode, what could be coming next. If we have another one of these, then you definitely want that guy on your team. So
yeah,
you gotta convince that guy on your team.
Yeah, I will. I'll put out a job application. Looking for hire.
Looking for unemployed person.
Yeah, I need votes. I'm gonna start buying the votes, guys.
Yeah.
We got a lot of stuff that we can still talk about, but before we move on, like past the heroes, I do think it'd be fun to kind of rank the new 6 heroes, who we think ended up being the strongest, who we thought ended up being the weakest, and maybe why a little bit. We don't have to go too far into it, but I think it's relevant. I think some people may have their thoughts and opinions on the new heroes. Maybe some people haven't even had a chance to play all 6 of them yet, which is pretty honestly likely. I think fighting for the new heroes is difficult already, but let's just start at the strongest. I have a hero that I think is the strongest still, but I'm curious who you think it is.
Yeah, strongest is a little hard. I do think it's a little close. Now, I'm gonna say that I think Apollo is probably the strongest. But Apollo is hard to get full value out of. But I think if you're good at Apollo, I'm gonna say it's Apollo, and if not, then it's probably Celeste or Silver. It's actually kind of close, I think. But the top 3 is pretty clear to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say for me the top has either been Celeste or Silver. I think Silver is a lot stronger now than when she was on release. Like they've given her a lot of like pretty substantial buffs to try and balance out her human form, like her not ultimate form. And the hero just feels insane now. Like a good Silver player can kind of dominate a lobby, it feels like. So I'm with you. I feel like Celeste, Silver, and now Apollo for me are in the top 3. It is probably interchangeable in a lot of scenarios and games, but yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Middle of the pack then. Who do we think? Because I'm leaning more towards Rem and Venator as the next 2. I feel like they're both pretty strong in the middle. Rem maybe slightly more just because of the buffs Rem's been receiving. Venator also got some pretty solid buffs. Those 2 are a little hard to compare, but
they are. I mean, they fulfill such different roles, right? One of the things about the new heroes is like like the Celeste and Apollo, you could say, are like somewhat similar. I mean, their roles are still different, right? But they're both like kind of spirit damage dealers that kind of cause like disruption, right? Like Apollo causes a bit more disruption than Celeste. Celeste has perhaps a bit more a lot more AoE damage. Apollo has a lot more like single target damage with the execute and everything. But regardless, kind of the same. But when you look at Graves, Rem, and Venator, I mean, you can't really have more different heroes, right?
Yeah.
Like they're so different. Like Rem is like very supporty, has tunnels to use, very like macro intensive, can put his little helpers on trooper waves, can steal centers, can do all that stuff. Venator has gotten a lot of changes that have kind of made him a little bit. So when Venator was released, there was a bug with his ult, but even without the bug, his ult was kind of just like overtuned and incredibly strong. But that was he was kind of an ult merchant.
Yeah.
So like he popped ult, he would just insta kill you, and that was about what he would do. Like the rest of his kit didn't really seem that crazy. All right, it just seemed like all right. But recently with Venator, I've been seeing a bunch of more creative builds come up, especially with the changes. So his grenade got buffed, and his gut shot also got buffed, which has led to more builds kind of being creative. So with gut shot now, if you get, even without duration, if you just get 2 points in gut shot, you get a guaranteed heavy melee on wall stun, because your wall stun lasts 1.05 seconds. And if you get max gut shot, you get a blessed heavy melee. And then you can combine that with something like Echo Shard to get, 2 gut shots in a row into 2 blessed heavy melees, right?
Yep.
Which does a lot of damage, because let's remember, blessed heavy melees have the same thing as like the ult, where they get bonus blessed damage, which is, a crazy amount of damage, especially considering heavy melees in general are just one of the highest sources of damage in the game.
Especially Venators.
So you get like this. Yeah, so you got this crazy burst that's like really, really strong. And then I've seen people kind of build more around the grenades and the traps. So like Wander's been doing this build where he goes like, so basically like kind of support Vendor. And by support, I mean he still builds a lot of gun, but he goes like rapid recharge, duration, and reach. And is basically just spamming grenades and spamming traps the whole time. And honestly, like it definitely doesn't look that bad. Like it's not crazy, but like the traps are really annoying. And his grenades are huge, and they apply 50% anti-heal to everyone, so there's a lot of utility there. And he still does a lot of damage. Like he's still like high in the damage charts most game.
That's so funny, because I've been doing a lot of similar stuff on Venator, where it's like I'm grenade maxing, rapid recharge, like superior cooldown, ballistic enchantment, getting the AoE. And it's like you just build him as a tank basically, and you're just running around throwing out traps and grenades everywhere. Those games have felt the best of everything that I've played on the hero, which is really funny.
Yeah, I don't really think that the hero is like that strong as like a pure like backliner, right? I don't really think he's a backliner similarly to how like a Wraith or a 7 would be.
Yeah.
I don't think his consistent damage output is high enough to be one of those heroes. But he has very, very good like damage potential. It's just not as consistent as the Wraith or the 7 or
like Haze,
these other heroes. But he does, even Haze. But he does kind of like get in people's faces, shotgun stun them. Like he has a lot of utility, right?
Yeah,
a lot of utility into his kit, and I think that he's a lot more interesting than I gave him credit for at first, especially with the recent changes they've done.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing a little bit more build diversity rather than just, hey, go orange items, press your ultimate, and like two-shot someone.
Yeah.
Which you can still do, by the way. You can still do that.
Definitely can. That is an option. Absolutely. So yeah, I think Venator kind of creeped up on me a little bit. I knew I was going to be excited to play him. I like him a lot more than on his, initial release. I think he's definitely more fun.
Yeah.
Where do we think Graves fits in? Because this is a hero that has been nerfed and nerfed and nerfed some more. And then like they thought they buffed her, but kind of nerfed her anyway. Like where I don't know what this hero does in the game anymore.
Yeah, so I've played a lot of Graves. I'm probably one of the people, at a high rank that's played the most Graves. Let me see how many games I have. I have a decent amount. It's nothing crazy. I have 36 games of Graves, so it's not, it's not bad. 36 games, 24 games won. So, what is that? 66% win rate. So pretty good win rate.
Yeah.
So I think I have a good understanding of her. And, my opinion on Graves is this. I think that Graves is really strong past a certain point of the game. Okay, so I think her early game is like just kind of meh. It's just not that good. There's a lot of heroes that it's very hard for her to kind of like deal with. Her laning stage is fine, but it's not crazy. It's just okay. Like she's just 2 stamina hero that's pretty slow with extremely limited range. So there's a lot of matchups that are just like really bad for her.
Yeah.
And even the matchups that like to play close to her, like if you're playing against an Abrams or a Billy, that's just really hard to fight those heroes for you.
You don't have like enough sustained damage to deal with them.
Yeah, exactly. So it's your passive in the laning stage, like most trades aren't long enough for your passive to really like significantly reduce bullet damage, at least at a high rank. Like people are not trading,
For like
for like
10,
4
15
seconds in a row.
seconds. They're like, it's a
Yeah,
quick burst of
exactly. Like you
damage and
don't.
then you leave.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have time to really build up your passive, so it kind of feels like she has a weak early game. Pretty much every single Graves game that I've played recently has been like, okay, early game, I kind of am doing whatever, like it's not really, I'm not having a great game. Like maybe I have a kill or two. If I have a good start, it's kind of over. But most games I kind of have like a mess start and then I scale into the game. And then later in the game, the cool thing about Graves is there's multiple ways to play her. You can play her a little bit more supporty by just like maxing wall if you want, and just going for something like Echo Shard wall and being really annoying. Or you can play her a little bit more damage oriented. And a lot of people have been asking me, why are you building gun Graves? Because I'm building mostly gun items with a side of spirit. Like the spirit items that I buy are like duration, cooldown, and Echo Shard kind of sometimes. And the reason for that is because like the spirit damage that Graves has is just like very unreliable.
Yeah.
It's just like, the zombies are very unreliable damage unless you spawn the tombstone right on top of someone, which does work. And the Jar of Dead is very unreliable damage until late game. When you have like a lot of them, especially with Echo Shard, then it starts to become pretty reliable. But early on, it's hard to get like a ton of damage with that. So I think Graves is like, I would say Graves and Venator are the weakest ones of the bunch. Not to say they're weak, they're still very strong, but they're the weakest ones of the new hero. I put Rem at a solid 4th place. And yeah, I think Graves and Venator are like the weaker ones.
Yeah, I think,
but they're still strong.
Yeah, it's like I think I have kind of like a love hate with Graves because I think part of me wanted her to be more of a kind of macro controlling hero, but I think they've been taking a lot of like her macro of like a kind of control away from her, or at least trying to nerf it to where it's not as strong. But yeah, it feels like you are having to build her more and more around her gun, just because like you said, the jar is unreliable. There's been, I don't know if you've seen it in the games that you played recently, because I played her quite a bit, but like sometimes you throw the jar and the skulls they just float there and then they die after 10 seconds. Like they actually decide not to aggro to anything. And that's happened like a few times. And those are like the little things that like I think need to be maybe tweaked on the hero, like making sure that the skulls do aggro correctly. But it's like you said, it's that portion of her damage being unreliable is makes it difficult to build her as a spirit hero. So building her into like this kind of anti-carry, where you just are tanky in the late game and you just kind of try your best to stay on top of heroes, has been like the most success that I've seen on her. But yeah,
I mean, late game she goes crazy. I just want to say like one thing. Like yesterday, I had the longest game of Deadlock I think I've ever had, or like close to it. Maybe not ever, but almost. I had a 58-minute game. This was like a full like a turn of 6 lobby. Like we didn't have like, it wasn't like random people, right? There's like me, Vegas, like Geo, Bud, Stride, Do, Tanner, like mostly like pro players or players that have played like at a very high level, right? It wasn't like a low rank lobby. It was very high rank. And I was playing Graves, and like when you get late game on this hero and you kind of get everything, like this hero feels crazy, right? Like my essence theft was like stealing 80% weapon damage per target. And at that point in the game, I had like every debuff possible. So I had silencer, inhibitor, ricochet, toxic bullets, unstoppable warpstone. Like I didn't have capacitor. I think capacitor is bait on this hero. That's my opinion. I mean, it's all right if you want pure damage. I just don't think this hero is like a pure damage hero. I think this hero is like a debuff hero.
Yeah.
And another thing about this hero is that unless you build a lot of ammo and fire rate, capacitor is kind of like just not that good. The reason why toxic bullets is good is because even while you're reloading, it does damage.
Yeah.
So it kind of like fixes your ammo problem as well. Like, to give you an idea, like toxic bullets was 23% of my damage that game.
Yeah, toxic is like the best
like
that I've seen. It's like the first damage buy really that I've opted for on this hero almost every game.
Yeah, I pretty much rush toxic. Like I usually get toxic. Like by 10 minutes I have toxic. Like even though it's percent HP, it still ends up being the best. But anyway, like once you get late game, like this hero like gets so much weapon damage, especially with ricochet or split shot or whatever you have. And on top of that, like you're getting so much spirit resist because you're also, a lot of people forget you also steal the spirit resist, and it's 15% per target. So if you have 3 targets that you're stealing from. That's 45% spirit resist that you're stealing all of a sudden. And that's assuming you don't have any spirit resist, like that you bought yourself. Like I had Spellbreaker, for example, as my spirit resist. And I also have Silencer and Inhibitor. So on top of like taking a flat amount of damage away from them, I'm reducing percent damage that they're dealing. So anyway, I think that this hero, if you get to full build, is like crazy strong. I just think the hard part about this hero is like getting there.
Yeah, that has been the thing I've experienced as well. I've had some absolutely bonkers late game, like 40-minute plus games on this hero, but it's like you said, it's getting to that point where you feel like you have the debuffs, getting to the inhibitor, ricochet, and silencer, stuff like that. Once you have she's Thanos. Like she just controls the team fights completely. But we'll see.
Yes, she definitely scales very well. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a great scaling hero for sure. But that's
Yeah.
the new 6 heroes, man, and they're all pretty sick. Really happy with how they have kind of dropped into the game. I mean, during this time frame, during the release of the 6 heroes, each week we kind of saw the player count like jumping a little bit here and there.
Yep.
Ended up peaking at just under 126,000 players. 125,665 was the total player count that we peaked at during these weeks. But it's been kind of steadily staying at around 100K concurrent daily since the Apollo release. So overall, player count, pre Old God New Blood was sitting in around 25 to 26,000, and then we kind of like massively peaked, to where we are now, and it's holding. So that's pretty sick. Like that's great for the game.
It is. It is. I mean, it's basically like quadrupling the active player base, which is insane for the game. It's obviously insane for me as a content creator. Like I've seen it reflected in my views, and my stream and my YouTube views and interest for everything that I do. It hasn't quadrupled quite yet because obviously like brand new players like don't consume content right away. It takes time, but regardless of my content, it's a great thing for the game, and it's a game that we all love, and sharing it with more people is good. And the more people play this game, the more hype there's going to be around this game. The more hype there is around this game, the more successful a potential open beta or whatever it is going to be. And a lot of people, if you go back in time, would say like Deadlock, it was like a flop or things like that. Like I'm not saying reasonable people would say that, but some like haters would look at Deadlock and be like, okay, well, Deadlock in basically from August 26th peaked at 171,000 concurrent, and then within about 3 months went from 171,000 concurrent to 23,000 concurrent, which is massive, like kind of most of the player base just stopped playing. Basically, like they tried it and they were like, okay, it's cool, but I'm gonna stop. But now, ever since pretty much, I mean, the core player base has stayed, and then ever since the last big update, so the last 6 heroes update, last time, like you said, we were around 25 to 30,000. And that was about half of the peak. So last 6 heroes update, the peak was 62,000 concurrent. So we maintained half the peak, and I fully expect that this time it'll be similar. So since the peak this time was around 125,000, then I wouldn't be surprised if we just, after like a month right from now, we're kind of just chilling at 60,000 concurrent players roughly. And it's going to kind of coast like that. Because one thing that we've noticed is once the attrition has kind of begun. So last time the attrition took about 2 months to happen ish, like a month and a half for like half the player base to stop. Once the attrition has happened, it is quite stable in the sense that after that initial like month and a half, everybody else is just has a crippling addiction to Deadlock and can't stop playing. So they're just like they're stuck there.
Yeah, and now we've got more of them. Welcome to apologies for your future crippling addiction. Yeah, but it's a cool place to be, I guess, the cursed apple. But yeah, it's in terms of where we're gonna end up. I think you're about right. Right, probably half that player base is gonna start to drop off a little bit over the next couple of months, but that all depends on what happens next, right? Like that all depends on what Valve is working on right now and what we think is going to be coming down the pipeline, and how soon. We don't know, right? Like we don't know what it is that they're working on, but we're going to talk a little bit about it, what we theorize, and what we can expect maybe coming from Valve in the future, whether near or far. But for me
Yeah.
personally, I'm feeling like Valve is gonna hit us with the map update, right?
Okay.
I feel like it's been kind of cool how they've kind of staggered between them, right? The hero release, and then they'll do like a big balance patch or like a map update. I think there hasn't been any like major map reworks in a while. Obviously, we had like the patron rework and a couple areas on the map that were reworked in the Old God New Bloods update, which was amazing. This is where we finally got to see kind of like the snippets of like what the final product is going to look like for Deadlock. And I
Yep.
think that is where I think we're going next is we're going to like we actually saw if you've played the game recently, there even have been some slight updates to different rooms throughout Deadlock without them even like announcing it. Like some of the rooms are getting like themed, but they're not polished yet. They're like, maybe this is what this room's going to be, like next to the side
Yeah.
lane, like the opposite of the library, the corresponding one is now being turned into what looks like a radio casting room, which is
Mhm.
kind of interesting. But when they,
Yeah.
I think we're going to be seeing like a major map overhaul once again, as well as the overhaul to the jungle. I think that's to me, I think is going to be a pretty major change to the game. Um, and I think,
Okay.
would bring a lot of the player base either back or keep them continuously playing.
Yeah. Um, I think that's a fair, I would say, guess. As far as the actual map update, I'm not sure like how much major overhaul we would see to the map. It's kind of hard to say. I do think that when you look at the things they haven't touched in a while, or basically have never touched, right? It's So I just go at it by kind of like a process of elimination, right? Okay, of like what is the most outdated stuff in the game that they've just like never touched, other than for like quick balance changes. And those things are definitely the jungle and mid boss.
Yeah.
Like, I started playing May 2024, and in May 2024, the jungle and mid boss looked the exact same and had almost the exact same mechanics with some small differences. Small difference being mid boss rejuve back then, you didn't punch it, you just stood on top of it.
Yeah.
And then there was like cheese where basically it was like completely RNG, like everyone would just try to stand still on top of it, and it was like, oh, someone got it, what can you do? And one rejuve gave you a rejuve to your entire team. So
Yeah.
if you just got lucky, you just got 6 extra lives. Like, okay. But anyway, they haven't touched mid boss. They haven't touched mid boss's looks. They haven't touched mid boss's mechanics, right? Like mid boss doesn't have
There are
any
no mechanics.
attacks,
Yeah.
really.
It's just a laser beam.
It's
It's
just
the
like a
old
laser
patron.
beam, which is kind of lame. I think everybody kind of agrees mid boss feels a little lame. The jungle has no mechanics, which is also kind of lame. It all looks the same, which is kind of lame. So I think that it's very likely. I mean, okay, I think it's guaranteed that this will get changed before open beta. And like I've seen some predictions of like, oh, the update is split in two, and the next half is coming in February. Like, oh, open beta is closed, all that stuff. And I'm like, if you look at the amount of stuff, okay, Valve has already put in years and years of development into this without making a single cent. Why would Valve rush the open beta before they get rid of everything that's like most likely a placeholder asset? And to me, that includes the jungle, that includes mid boss, that includes the walkers, that includes the guardians. If you look at the base guardians, that's what the final product looks like.
100%.
If you look at the lane guardians, that's just how it's been.
Yeah. When I was
And the
go
hero
ahead.
models.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
that's a good point. A lot of the hero models and animations are still placeholder. Um, yeah, when I was talking about the map, I meant not like changes to the actual layout of the map, but more along the lines of the look of the map in the jungle and everything like that. I think those all are going to be overhauled. It's a good thing to remind me about the walkers and the guardians though, because again, those they have made them look pretty cool, but they're not thematic in any way to their patrons anymore. Like they're just very much
Yeah.
yep, these are here, but we're working on something, which after seeing the base guardians, dude, I cannot wait to see what the walkers are going to look
Yeah.
like. That's the one thing I'm probably the most excited to see the overhaul to like to see what they theme them around and what they're going to look like, because there's so much cool potential
Yeah.
for those. And then of course mid boss, yeah. Because like
Yeah.
when it comes to mid boss, like you have to give it some sort of an ability to fight back. Like you don't want it to just be like a bullet sponge in a way. That's just like, oh, come kill me. I'm gonna wait here and
Yeah.
It's not interactive, right? Like when it comes to bosses in MOBAs, like Roshan in
Yep.
Dota has like a disarm and a roar that amp damage. He has a slam that hits everyone in AOE. In League of Legends, is it Baron? Is that his name? Baron has like
Yeah, it's
these
Baron. Yeah.
missiles that rain down, I believe, and like hit people. Like there's a bunch of different like mechanics that you can come up with to make it a more interesting fight for mid boss.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. It's I do agree it needs mechanics, and it's going to make it like just more interesting, more fun, and also like, it allows you to have a little bit more balance power over the strength of mid boss because mid boss can fight back a little bit, right?
Yeah,
So you can be like, okay, well, we can make mid boss harder by making mid boss have certain mechanics that just make it take slightly longer to do because now it has a disarm or it has an AoE like fire rate slow or who knows, right? You can do a lot of things, and I also think, I mean, thematically, it just looks weird.
it's a giant booger.
Um, it should be a giant rat instead. Um, that drops a cheese as the rejuvenator, and that would be like peak. First of all, a rat dropping a cheese just makes sense, and second of all, that'd be like a peak reference to Dota.
Yeah,
That the non-Dota players wouldn't get it first, would be kind of cool. So what if the rejuvenator was a piece of cheese, and then every time you punched it, there's like like a piece of the cheese that like went away until there's no cheese left for 3 punches.
I'd love that.
So
Yeah,
I've been cooking on this. Valve, you feel free to hire me if you're interested. um, I will be like, if this idea makes it into the game, I will be contacting my lawyers. Um, anyhow, I think that one thing that Valve has proven for what's coming next is that Valve can work on things simultaneously.
yeah,
So in this update, when you think about everything we got, okay, the update took a while. Let's not beat around the bush. The update took more than 5 months.
hmm
It was more than 5 months. It was 5.5 months ish. A little less than that. So 5 months and like 2 weeks ish. But we got a fully new game mode, right? And we got 6 heroes, and we got significant map changes. Like I know you said the map, but like I would count the bases like very
Oh,
significant
absolutely.
map changes. So 6 new heroes, significant map changes to the bases, the base mechanics, right? Like the shrines now have like the curse attacks, and same for the patron. The patron has new mechanics, etc. And then on top of that, we got a game mode. So what that tells me is that if you give Valve time to cook, they can kind of do a lot of things at once. And I don't think that we have enough heroes yet.
Really?
And so
Okay.
I'm kind of thinking it's quite possible Valve does another 6 hero update. Now, how many 6 hero updates does Valve have left in the tank? You know what I mean? Like probably not many. Like I would guess we're going to get maybe one more 6 hero update. I couldn't really see a world where we get 2, but maybe we get 2. Like I could see it. I think it's a low chance, but maybe we get 2 more of those. But I think for open beta, 40 to 50 heroes is a good amount to aim for. So if we get another 6, that'll put us right at 44 heroes. We're 38 heroes right now. And so I think that we're like almost at the, I would say like required amount of heroes for the game to feel like it has enough diversity and enough like, like counters and answers and cool draft for the game to potentially go open beta. Because open beta also means esports.
That's true.
Whether Valve likes it or not.
Yeah. That is a good point. I do, it's one of those things that to me, when people were talking early on about this game, they're like, "Oh, like like it's a MOBA. This game needs like 80 heroes," and I'm like, "No, hard no." Like with this, like in like 10 years, maybe. Like this game needs, like my thought process was about 40. I thought was like the line of like, all right, we've hit 40 heroes. This is a good number that we can go into open beta with. I'm fine with the idea of there being one more 6 hero update, so we had a 44. I think I'd like it to be closer to 40 than I would like it to be closer to 50. Personally, I just think this game is, there's a lot to learn, and to make it a little bit
Yeah.
more approachable, like giving a slightly reduced number of heroes at the beginning, I think is probably better than having a much larger cast of heroes to some extent, because there is something to be said about having a backlog of finished heroes and just releasing those as content for the next year. Like being like, hey, we have say they release 2 heroes and we have 40 heroes, but the other 4 heroes in that come out once a month for the next 4 months after the open beta, right? So like that would be another way to like kind of keep the game like fresh for the release. Like I think there's a lot of different ways they could go about it. Um, but yeah, I feel like this is one of those games that actually benefits from maybe not having too many heroes initially on release. And I feel like we're getting
Yeah.
there. I feel like we're definitely getting there. Like
Yeah,
the
100%.
the roster feels like you were saying, it feels like there's a lot more diversity than there was just 6 months ago, right? Just from these 12 heroes that we've been added. I mean, that was like a, you know, like a what 30% increase in the roster. So kind of a major amount of heroes. But um, yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're getting close. And with, like you said, Valve's ability to kind of work on a lot of things at once, I think a significant part of the development time for the last 6 months was probably the new game mode. Street Brawl is not something that was just like a last minute thought of like, oh, let's just put this into the game, like type of thing. Like, I feel like that was a significant
Yeah.
amount of effort that went into it, and I think it has already paid off personally. I think that the amount of people
Yeah.
that play this mode is probably surprising. We don't have the numbers, but obviously Valve does. They can see how many Street Brawl games are being queued at any time versus like regular. But I imagine it's very high, and the amount of like casual players are going to be coming in and checking out the game and being introduced to Street Brawl first, as opposed to regular Deadlock. I think is a massive win. Like I think people are going to be much more receptive to the
Oh yeah.
game. So I think it's a great decision from them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like, how like roguelike and roguelite games are like super popular.
Yeah.
I think like Street Ball can literally be treated as like a roguelike, like a very complicated, because you have to learn a bunch of things, but very complicated roguelike game. It's as complicated as you make it, really. But it's like, oh yeah, you build your character, as you go through your little run. Yeah, it's very short, but that's basically what it is. And I think that definitely appeals to a lot of people. And I'm curious what it's going to do to player retention. Like, are we
Yeah.
going to see higher player retention from this patch's peak? Like in the past, I said like, okay, we keep about 50% of the peak, right, from these big updates. Are we going to see higher because it's easier to just kind of like keep playing the game casually while you're waiting for the next update? Like a lot of people sometimes will get like kind of like bored of the main game mode and be like, okay, I want like a balance patch, or I want this, or I want that. But it's very easy to just, kind of mindlessly play a couple games of Street Brawl here and there. It passes the time. It's kind of like low stakes. Even if you get smoked, it's over in like 10 minutes, right? So even if you're getting like smoked, I find that it's kind of hard to be like super frustrated in Street Brawl, because one, it doesn't affect your rank, but also like I said, it's over quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
You're like 10 minutes, you're like, oh, well, I'm just gonna queue it back up and play a different hero, and maybe you'll get better RNG and the items that you like wanted, to play for. It's like
Yeah.
you can't have a bad time if you get the enhanced piano. I'll tell you that. Like we were getting absolutely stomped in a game, but I had enhanced piano, and all I did was just run around dropping pianos on people, and that made it all
Yeah.
worth it. Even in the loss. So there's fun to be had in Street Brawl, even when you're getting smoked.
Yeah, and we had a Street Brawl tournament just this weekend.
Oh yeah, how'd that
At
go?
Deathy events. Yeah. We had basically the top teams in Europe and the top teams in North America, and it was like $1,000 per region prize pool. And the basically the way that we did the rule set was it was all random draft.
That's right.
Except you got to choose the players, right? So like for example, if you rolled 4 heroes, you could be like, oh, I want Sonya Sniper to play this guy. I want Together to play the Abrams, right? Like Abraham's actually got Abrams almost every single game somehow.
What's that possible?
Yeah, I don't know. They actually like lucked out like crazy, but regardless, it was a lot of fun. I do think that if we did like actual draft and like meta stuff, I think it's way less fun.
Yeah.
At a high level, and so we didn't want to do that. We felt that random was kind of a better way to approach it. And each team, if they agreed, the captains needed to agree to this. But if they agreed, they got 1 ban each, so they could ban like a specific hero. Celeste was probably the most banned hero during that tournament. But
Yep.
But yeah, it went really well. And in Europe, Abraham's won very, very close. The games were best of 5, and Abraham's won 3-2. And even the last game was like, like last round, like of a best of 5 against Buff Enjoyers, aka Brawl Enjoyers.
Oh yeah.
And in North America, it was Floormen that won against Hydra Nation. Melee Creeps actually got eliminated in the first round
Ooh.
in a very close game.
That's fun, right?
So yeah, they got taken down. But yeah, it was kind of fun. I don't know if we'll do more. Street Brawl is obviously meant as a more casual mode. We were kind of doing it just, for the fun of it. But yeah, it was fun and cool, and there's more Death Slam stuff coming up in the next 2 weeks. So we've got the Deathy's Death Slam coming up, which maybe you can tell them a little bit about that because you've participated in one yourself. So
Yeah,
how
I
about
did.
you tell them your experience?
It was fun. So yeah, I played in the last Deathy Death Slam, and then
Maybe we should start with what it is.
yeah. So Deathy Death Slam is like a kind of a condensed tournament where you basically apply to play in the tournament, and then they do a pretty decent job at balancing out the teams based on the amount of applicants, and then you end up on a team with 5 other players, and you get to compete in this tournament with people of similar skill basically. And then you have kind of like your seeding weekend in a way. So you play like some matches to get seeded
Yep.
into the tournament bracket. And then after that weekend, you get a couple of free coaching sessions by a bunch of high ranked players that like volunteer throughout the tournament,
Yep.
that partner up with everyone, and you get assigned a coach, and then you can sit down with them and they'll give you a full free coaching session to the team. And then you go into the tournament weekend, right? Your elimination bracket where you're playing you know, for everything. That's it's all on the line, right? Trying to get how far you do. We got second, I believe, in the last tournament. And then we ended up winning Death Slam League. So my team stayed together, which was actually this was the coolest part about the whole thing is like after that was all done. I actually really enjoyed the team that I played with, and so we ended up just kind of staying together and like we played a bunch. And we ended up signing up for the Death Slam League, and then we ended up winning Death Slam League. I think that was like 2 weekends ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we won it 2 weekends ago, and yeah, it's like fun. Like I've made some pretty good friends that are all around my rank that I can actually queue with pretty regularly now. So it was an
Yeah.
overall thumbs up experience.
That's good.
Yeah.
I would hope so. I mean, we do what we can. Obviously, we've put in hundreds of hours of work. Everyone's volunteer, right? We haven't made a single cent from Death Slam events. Obviously, eventually, as a business, we are registered. Like we would hope to make money at some point. We're not hiding that, but right now it's kind of like for the love of it, for the love of the game. I mean, it will always be for the love of the game. It's just eventually you want to try to monetize your love a little bit, but. It's a really fun time. And if you're ever interested, like these tournaments, one thing that we didn't mention is like they're for the average player. We do some tournaments for pros, but it's not. You don't need to be like a tournament, right? A lot of people are like, oh, I don't know if I'm good enough. Like we literally have like players that are initiate in our tournaments. Like sometimes in the lower brackets, in the lower. Because what we do is we do divisions based on rank, and so right now for the current. For the current iteration of this tournament, there's like a few Ascendant players, but most players are like below Ascendant. Like the large majority of players are below Ascendant, and then the lowest division, it's more like around like Emissary, like Ritualist type like ranks. So it's not. You don't need to be good. You get free coaching, and like our roster of coaches this time is well, first of all, we have 48 teams, but also
Jesus.
The roster of coaches is like it's stacked. Like we have let me just pull it out real quick. Where did I put it? I put it somewhere. Okay, there we go. Okay, I have it here. Yeah, we have Pure Content, Ranger, me, Naked, Saya, Lona, Cool Cheese, KenCon, Arctic, Tanner, Gibbs, OBT. So it's just like a lot of people that you would know, a lot of high level or pro players, or like most of our coaches are like top 50 in North America. Like not all of them, almost all of them are top 100. So, and we've got kind of a lot of coaches. It's like maybe like 18 coaches. So we have like a large percentage of like the top 100 players in North America coaching. And it reminds me a lot of in TF2, we had this thing called newbie mixes, which any TF2 players might know. But it was basically this like community event that were, pugs that were meant to introduce players to competitive TF2, because competitive TF2 is completely different from like just your average pub in TF2 is different rule set, different everything. So there's kind of like a big learning curve to it. And in those pugs, you get kind of the new players, and every team would get paired with like a coach that had competitive experience, of like a certain caliber, right? You needed to be ESEA intermediate, or at least have a few seasons of open, I think. So it's kind of similar here, where we're getting really high level players paired up with much worse community members as far as skill level goes, giving them free coaching, and then it gives all these people an exposure to the competitive ecosystem, and in my opinion, to the way that Deadlock can be the most fun, which is in an organized environment with a draft, with 5 people that you're communicating with, strategizing with, trying to come up with your own silly stuff. And I think that's where a lot of the fun lies.
Yeah, there's a big difference from going and playing pubs with like 1 to 2 to 3 people to playing an organized game, like match against another organized group, and being able to like pick your draft and decide what kind of combinations you want to have, and what type of style you want to play as. It's fun. It makes a huge difference, especially if everyone's like in there to have fun, like as long as, because there are going to be people who maybe like in pubs who are just like there for the wrong reasons, right? But if you're doing like the death time events, and you're doing like these types of tournaments, like finding a team and just like having a kind of a more fun mindset for everything, and like if your mindset is you just want to improve, it's a great way to do it. Like it's a really great way to
Yeah.
do it. You can learn a lot very quickly, being on
Yeah.
like a team, and being able to like play regularly with people and kind of like understand the game better. So yeah,
Yep.
big recommendation. It's this. I didn't even know we were gonna do this segment, to be honest, but I yeah,
Oh, I
like
mean, it just kind of came up
it just
naturally,
kind of
it's
came
just a
up, yeah.
conversation.
So I was
So,
like,
I
hell
mean, yeah,
yeah,
I didn't know either.
yeah.
I do see the time ticking, so I think that we kind of went with everything that we wanted. Is there any last words that you'd like to have before we, end this episode?
Um, well, I mean, for starters, if you guys made it this far, thank you so much for listening, for watching, wherever it is that you are. Like, um, this is again kind of just like a project that we really like and we want to keep doing. And if you guys enjoy it, make sure to subscribe or follow us wherever it be. And we're gonna keep trying to put these out every week. And we're big fans of the game. We're not going anywhere, so we'll
Sure.
keep talking about Deadlock until until we can't anymore, I guess. I don't, for one reason or another.
We have a head full of gray hair.
Yeah, or no hair.
We are, or no hair. Yeah, we were bald, retired men. I mean, who knows? I'm hoping that Deadlock will last. I mean, I'm pretty confident Deadlocks will be the thing of the next decade, right?
Yeah, I am
like
with
in
you
the
on that one.
2030s. Deadlock is gonna be that's gonna be the game.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe even sooner than the 2030s, but regardless, yeah, thank you guys for watching so much. We'll be back next week with another episode. Let us know in the comments if there's anything you want us to talk about in specific, or if there is any guests that you would like to see, because it's been a little bit since we've had our last guest, so we're probably right about due for another guest. So, if you guys have any people you'd like to see on the podcast, let us know. We'll try to reach out to them, and well, we'll see what happens. But maybe next week we'll have a guest, or maybe the week after.
Yeah, that'd be nice. All right. Well, we'll see what kind of everyone says, and until next time, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful time. We'll see you then. Bye bye.
Bye bye.